What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Mike Robinson, and this is another episode of Let's Take a Walk. I hope everybody had a great week. I had a great week, and thank the Lord, we're here, safe and unharmed, and ready to go. So up to now, Eltar has always had amazing guests on, and tonight is no different. Tonight, I have, how do I describe this person? He is a pastor, a minister, a rapper, a father, a husband. He is just an influencer of epic proportion. He is a young icon. That's a good description. A young icon, young OG, if you will. Pastor Caleb McClendon. For those of you who may not be familiar with his movement, I'm going to give him the floor to kind of reintroduce himself and give a little background on everything that he has going on. So with that being said, the floor is yours.
Man, first of all, I appreciate you, Mr. Mike, for having me on the show, man. I am
absolutely
honored. You know, I don't even think I'm that interesting, but you got me on the show, and so now I feel like I'm somebody now. So, Mama, I made it. I am here. No, so shout out to you. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you and your consistency of what you're doing. I believe that your consistency will not go unrewarded. I think this is phenomenal what you're doing, to have conversations with other people. Absolutely, man, to have conversations with other people, to hear their journey, to hear their walk. We get to take a walk with Mike Robinson. So I'm very appreciative for what you're doing. So like you said, my name is Caleb McClendon. I serve as the assistant pastor at C3 Hampton, in Hampton, Virginia, Calvary Community Church, also known as Calvary Community Church. I believe you had my wife on the show a couple months ago as well, Dr. Leslie Francisco McClendon. This episode will not be as interesting as hers, but it'll be a close second. So I'm excited to be at least on the platform that my wife had I get to share this with her as well. But like you said, I used to be a rapper, father. We have a son. My wife and I have a son, Jackson Alexander Francisco McClendon. He is 3 years old and full of life. He is a handful. You hear me? A handful. But we love every moment of it. We love every moment of it. I love fatherhood. Is the best. I will not trade it. And I am the husband. Again, my wife, Dr. Leslie. I used to put in my bio that I am her bodyguard, and I still am. So don't run up on her. For those of you watching, I'm always on duty. But yeah, man. That's basically me in a nutshell. My wife and I recently started a business, McClendon Media Group, where we do graphics and all those media needs and stuff like that. So I guess, during the pandemic, a lot of us got creative during this time. And so we were one of those as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So before we start getting super deep.
Okay.
I know you've given a little background on who you are and everything, but kind of from a different perspective. Like,
okay,
you're from Mississippi?
Yeah. So I am originally from Jackson, Mississippi. I'm born and raised Jackson, Mississippi. My parents still live in Jackson, Mississippi. I have a sister. She lives in Jackson, Mississippi. So born and raised Mississippi swagger. I didn't even know Virginia was considered the South until it was like, this is the South. I was like, this is not the South. This is definitely East Coast, but apparently it's the South, just not as South as Mississippi. But I love Virginia as well. It's now my home, so I love it as well.
Right, I'm the same way. I'm from New York, so
okay.
When they told me that Virginia is South, it just didn't Just doesn't feel South, I guess.
But
But
is it?
I get it.
Right.
Right. Right. Yeah. So what brought you to Virginia?
So the short answer is Leslie, my wife. A little bit longer. Leslie and I, we originally met while we were in college. So that was in Oklahoma. So we both were living in Oklahoma. She was at Oral Roberts University. I was at Rhema Bible Training Center. And we met at her school through some mutual friends. It really wasn't much. It was more so, hey, what's going on? Hey, how you doing? It was, we didn't really interact like that. It was just our first introduction of each other. I was working. I think I even had a girlfriend at the time. I was working at Proactive in the mall, the little kiosk, selling the Proactive kits and stuff like that. And, I'll see her every now and then walk through. And it wasn't until she moved back to Virginia, I moved back to Mississippi. We started playing the game Words with Friends. So you remember that game, Words with Friends? I think it's still out. Yeah, so we started playing Words with Friends. She, I think, challenged me or whatnot to Words with Friends. She murdered me almost every time we played. But in the Words with Friends app, there's like a little message thing, a message icon where you can message. So we actually started talking through Words with Friends. And so she had asked me, she said she had made up some story that she had like some guy problems or something like that. And she wanted to talk about, the whole scenario, the situation. Right. And I obliged. I said, okay. Cool. At that time, and by that time when we moved back, I didn't have a girlfriend or whatnot. So I obliged. I was like, cool, just, give me a call. We could talk. And she was like, oh, my daddy told me the guy's supposed to call a girl. And I'm like, I agree, but you don't want to talk about you got a problem. So I figured, you got the problem. So I called her. I called her, and we did not even talk about the whole quote unquote guy situation. We talked for a couple hours and just talked life, about each other, what's going on. We didn't talk about church or nothing like that. And then from there, from Words with Friends to that conversation, we just started talking almost every day and built the relationship, built the friendship. And then from that friendship, making a long story short, we started dating long distance. And then one day, after we've been dating for a while, I had jokingly said, I should intern at your dad's church, because at that time her father was pastoring the church that she now pastors. And I was kind of saying jokingly, I wasn't really serious, but she literally gave the phone immediately to her dad. Dad, Caleb said he want to intern. And I'm like, oh, she said, my dad said, call him. I was like, I don't even. So anyway, I called, set up the internship. I drove down here in my 2000 Toyota Celica GTS from Mississippi to Virginia. I didn't take no breaks. I drove. The only time I stopped was for gas, and I took a 15-minute nap. And that's like 17 hours, 17-hour drive. Drove all the way through. Never would do that ever again in my life, ever. I would never do that.
Well, you don't have to.
So I came here, right, and so started interning. This was, I don't know what, 9 years ago. Finished up school. At some point during the summer, it became obvious that I wasn't about to go home. So I finished up school out here at Region. I went from Jackson State University, where now it's kind of getting a lot of attention because of you got Deion Sanders there now. Transferred from Jackson State to Regent. That's a whole nother story, but Regent, graduated from Regent. Eventually, after I graduated, married Leslie, and here I am, 60 pounds heavier and happier at the same time. So so it was a long story. I almost felt like I should have introduced that by saying, and this is a story all about, but yeah.
Right. But no, before we go any further, shout out to Senior Pastor Leslie McClendon. Thank her again for coming on the show. You guys are awesome. I gotta have you guys both on at the same time next time. Shout out to her. and the whole C3 family. Shout out to you guys.
Thank you.
To say that you guys have a rather unorthodox, unconventional type of ministry relationship would be kind of an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
So she is the senior pastor,
Mm-hmm.
and you are the assistant pastor.
Right.
So traditionally, of course, we know that, it's usually reversed. So how did that come about? Like how did that work out?
Great question. Great question. I get that.
Or come to be?
So here's a story as relates to that. Leslie and her father, Bishop, Bishop L.W. Francisco III, my father-in-law now, they were already in a succession plan. So they were like in a 7-year succession plan. And so when I came to Virginia, it might have been year 2 that they were in the middle of this succession plan of her transitioning to becoming senior pastor. So it was already in the works. And this is her grandfather. So just give you history on C3. Her grandparents started this church, C3. It was Calvary Community Church then, started the church. From there, her father succeeded her grandfather. And then it was already in place for her to be the succession story as relates to her father. So this story was already in place, whether if she knew before she even knew me, this was already taking place. And at the same time, and so then the conversation came up. So when we're, we're I think engaged or married or whatnot at this time. Yeah, married at this time. And so the conversation is now coming up, revisiting. All right, well, we was already in a succession plan. And so we were going to do, co-pastor, right? And we were going to, it was going to be pastor, co-pastor. We was going to be co-pastors together, right? And so what happened was I was like, honestly, Leslie, when you look on a church website, right, and you see co-pastors, man and woman, when people look on that website, they're going to automatically assume that the woman is the co-pastor. She co-pastor, or the man is the pastor of the church, and the woman, they say co-pastor for formalities and stuff like that, but they're going to automatically assume that I am the pastor of the church. You know what I'm saying? And I said, again, this was already in place before I got here. This succession story was already going before I got here. Why don't you be the senior pastor? Because that's what it is. And I be the assistant pastor, and I serve you. I make sure the vision that you have comes to life, comes to fruition. And I make sure that I'm gonna be a great assistant to you in the ministry. And I think the problem is, Mike, especially with men, for us, a lot of times we have this whole ego thing going on where I have to be the man. You know what I'm saying? I got to be the guy in charge. I have to be the person to do it. And truth be told, here it is. A lot of relationships as relates to men, as it relates to leadership. Yes, I am the head of our household for sure. But as it relates to C3, Leslie is the senior pastor. She has the final say. And I think when I was to my point about men trying to be the person to do everything, I have to be the person. You got men, especially in marriage and relationships. You're terrible with managing finances, but your wife is great at it. But just because you want to be the man, here you are jacking up the finances when you already have somebody to help me who knows exactly what they're doing, but you the man, and here y'all are jacked up, but you got your title, the man. But and here's the truth, Mike. God didn't call everybody to be number one. Somebody got to serve the leader, and so here I am, man. I am serving my wife in as the assistant pastor role in C3 Hampton. And the problem, I think, I don't see her as my competitor. She's my partner. She's my wife. So, I think, you have a lot of people who are like, really, man, can you do that? How could you do it? It's like, this is my wife. This is not she's not my competition. So, yeah.
Right. Wow. Um, this is a question that I often ask some of the pastors that I've had on the platform,
Let's
and
go.
I'm going to pose it to you as the assistant pastor and the spouse. Um, and I even asked Pastor Leslie too.
Okay.
Being anytime you're in leadership, upper leadership, pastors, leaders of industry, CEOs, whatever have you, you're given the responsibility of managing people. You know what I'm saying? And so in the midst of that, you are privy to a lot of things that the average mid-lay member is not. So you see death up close. You see divorce up close. You see poverty up close. You see lack up close. You see mental illness up close. You know what I'm saying? You see all these things, that the average lay member may not see. And these are things that you have to deal with on varying levels. So I asked Pastor Leslie, you know what I'm saying, how does she not, is it a challenge not to take people's stuff home with her? So I'm going to pose that same question to you, because as you said, you are a special case, because not only are you a ministry team member, you are also family, and you're also given the charge of providing and protecting. So how is it a challenge for you to manage that, being is such that you deal with so many different, personalities and different situations and issues coming from the general body?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. I mean, you are human. First of all, we're not robots, so you feel for people. You're empathetic, you're sympathetic, and people have a lot of things going on and challenges. Life is cruel to many people at times, and you do feel for them. And at the same time, we are called to be, to minister to those people and lead those people. But as it relates to, and correct me if I'm wrong, or at least interpreting the question incorrectly, as it relates to when I get home, I still have to be a husband to my wife. And so I
Right.
can't allow what the things of the world, no matter how close I am to it, to take away from the time as it relates to me at being a father to my son.
Mhm.
Yes, in the back of my mind, you have all this going on, but I still have a son, and he needs his father present mentally and physically.
Mhm.
And I still have a
Mhm.
wife, and she needs her husband there present mentally and physically. And
Mhm.
so is it a challenge? Yes, but at the end of the day, I'm married to, and to Leslie. I am the father of Jackson. So these two take precedent. These two are, number one. I heard someone say that, I heard it said that as relates to pastors and stuff like that, he said, you are not the church. That's God's bride. You're not married to the church. I'm married
Wow.
to
Wow.
Leslie. That's my wife. You know what I'm saying? So anytime that I take this and bring it here where it's, before her, and now I can't even be a functioning husband, a functioning a father. And yes, from the outside looking in, that sounds like, oh wow, you're so compassionate about it. Yes, I'm compassionate about it, but at the end of the day, you got to keep your priorities in line, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I find it so interesting. This is generally an hour platform, but you know what? This is such a rich topic. I could probably go 3 hours, but I'm gonna try to be, but
That's
yeah,
fine.
I just find it so interesting, and the fact that you're able to differentiate the different roles. Being an assistant pastor, being, a husband, and also just being a man in general. You have vision, you have aspirations, you have goals, you have, spiritual and, carnal, or whatever you want to call it. You have aspirations and things of that nature. So how does that work? I'm sure that you receive downloads and revelation as well as the patriarch of your household. So how does that work? Do you ever find that you have a challenge of being an assistant pastor overshadows your vision? Like, do you have a issue walking in vision, like your vision?
Mm-hmm. Great question. So I think with your question, I kind of have to break it down and separate it. I think there's as relates to the vision of, we'll do church first. As relates to the vision of C3, there are times, just put this out there, no one agrees with anyone 100% of the time. I don't agree with my mama 100% of the time. I don't agree with my wife, my daddy. I don't care who you are. I don't agree with you 100%. There's stuff in the Bible I'm like, man, So, but so with that being said, there are times in which, Leslie will say, this is kind of where, as relates to C3, this is where I kind of see us going. And even if there's been times I'll express my, I think we could do this right here, maybe we should do this, or maybe we adjust it or approach it from this way, or try this vision out, hear how this sounds. If I have something that differs from what she has, and Leslie and I have the conversations, almost every other month we check in with each other as it relates to this right here, making sure we're on one accord. But as it relates to that, and if I express to her like I see it a different way, and she still sees it, hey, like this is still the vision that I have for C3, and this is the way that I want to go. At that point, she is the senior lead pastor. So at that point, it's like, all right, well, I would do it differently, but if this is where this is what you want to go with it, then when it comes to approaching the team, when it comes to approaching volunteers, I'm gonna be sharing that thing like it's my vision. You know what I'm saying? Because she is she is the senior pastor. And so, and you almost kind of have to look at it from this point of view. It's like, let's say my wife was, I don't know, the CEO of Walgreens. I don't know. We'll say that, and I worked somewhere else. I would 100% say, listen, if someone, even if it was a man underneath her assistant CEO, whatever they call, I forgot what they call, but saying, questioning their authority, saying that, no, we need to do this. No, we need to do this. And they always pushing, trying to, I'm like, hold on, wait, are you the CEO or are you not the CEO? That's what I'm trying, are you, or not? So right. If I would say that as it relates to another man, then when it comes to me, I have to still take a step back. It's like, okay, if it wasn't me, what would I tell my wife if she came to me and tell me about this? You know what I'm saying? So, and now, so that's as it relates to church. As it relates to the house here at our home. Yes, we I lay out vision. We have goals and plans. And I think I had this conversation with somebody the other day. Is rarely as the head of the household, you saying, this is what we're gonna do. Everybody fall in line. Most of the time it's always conversation. This is kind of where I'm feeling, what are you thinking about? And even as relates to church, Leslie hears me out. But if she still feels that inkling that I need to do this, then we're gonna go that route. Same thing at the house, hey, this is kind of what I'm feeling. What do you think? And and I bounce ideas off my wife. If that's what you feel, okay, cool. But I'm still feeling this. I think that we should go this. And she heals as the head of the house here at our home. Hey, all right, well, you're the head of the house. We're gonna do it. And this is your decision. Let's do it. And as a man, you praying to God that you hoping you right. It's like, all right, well, I didn't put my foot down. Hopefully, it's the step in the right direction.
Right, right.
Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's shift gears
Okay.
a little bit.
Okay.
You were once a rapper. Tell us about that. What was entailed with that? What's that all about?
Ooh, okay. And this is a story. Okay. A rapper. Yes, I used to be I used to be a rapper a while ago. My rap name was Fog Walker. Fog stood for favor of God, so walking in the favor of God. Um I mean, music was something that my father is a musician. He played with a quartet group, Jackson Southern Airs, went around the world and
Wow,
played, yeah,
wow.
around
I
the
heard of
world.
them.
Yeah, he plays good. He plays good. Still plays guitar. Um, he run around the world playing. Zaynab, yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know if I got it now. We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, he went around the world. So being a musician, I was always surrounded by music. And one day, I went to like this youth camp, and I saw these guys rapping. And I was like, man, maybe I could do that. And eventually started developing
Mhm.
the craft. And I started writing music. Put out an EP. Um, yeah, man, it was great. I traveled. I was able to fly across the nation. Been on a private jet before. Doing what I love doing at that time. And so I want to get back. I'll get back into it one day. My wife, I already know she's probably watching. I'm sure she's watching. She's been getting on to me. Like, you need to start writing more, and start back writing. And I do. And yeah, I'll eventually get back into it.
You know, um, it was probably maybe maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
I actually reached out to. I don't know if she remembers, but I actually reached out to Pastor Leslie
Okay.
about you getting on one of my songs.
Really?
But we never got in touch with each other. But I don't know if you remember that, and I don't know if she remembers that. But I sent her like this long text. I was like, your husband, I heard he's dope. I would like to get him, get him on the song or whatever. But it never came to fruition.
Oh,
But
wow.
we'll see.
Look, God
Hopefully we'll
blocked
see.
it. He wouldn't let it be
But
so.
right.
God.
So with everything that you do,
Mhm.
everything that you have going on at this point, like you and Pastor Leslie are in business with one another.
Mhm.
With the media group, what is it? What is it called?
McClendon Media Group.
McClendon Media Group.
Yep, McClendon Media.
So you are what's all involved in McClendon Media Group?
Who it is? It's one of those things we kind of building the plane as we fly at the same time. So we are predominantly right now is heavy on graphics. Been doing a lot of graphics,
Mhm.
a lot of logos. Um, we also do voiceovers, uh,
Wow.
photos. Yeah, we are, yeah, like I said, we a lot of stuff. Some things we're stronger at, which is our graphics and logos, voiceovers. But a lot of stuff we're just building as building the plane as we fly. And it honestly, Mike, it has been very exciting. This is kind of one of the things we started in the pandemic, and we were like, let's go for it. We don't know everything, but I feel like if we wait till we know everything, it'll be too late, to start. And so let's dive into it. And when I tell you, Mike, we have been meeting our quota every month, and we haven't even promoted it. We haven't said a word about what we do, publicly at least. And it hasn't, and we've built it we've been meeting our quota. This haven't even come from church members. This is outside of church. And so it has been a blessing, man. We really, it's been a blessing. So it's one of those things that I believe that God has breathed on, and I believe it's one of those things that, obviously we'll have to work and till the ground for, but I think it's something that we can grow and be able to at least pass it down to our son, hire him, and, maybe he'll eventually take over and take it to higher heights, deeper depths. And yeah, so I'm excited about what's going on, The McClendons are dope. Thank you for saying that. I think you're muted, Mike. There you go.
Sorry about that.
There you
go. So do you ever, because from what I've seen from, like, when I have a person on, I kind of like OD on that person. So like I'll check out their YouTube, Facebook, excuse me, Instagram, whatever I can find, Wikipedia if I can find it or whatever. And I told Pastor Leslie this when I had her on too. It's like, when I look at the stuff that you guys post, and I hear the ministry and not even just the ministry. Just separate the ministry for a second. Just watching how you guys live, the things that you do, how you interact. It's so amazing to me. You guys look like you're having an amazing time. Is it as fun as it looks?
Wow, great question. Great question. Listen, I probably get on Leslie nerves most of the time. So I be having most of the fun. Leslie, I'm pretty sure I just get on her nerves most of the time because I love my wife. I love being around my wife. I enjoy her company. Now what we have, everybody can't do, and is I will admit is not common because we work together as well. So we're together 98% of the time. And so I enjoy it, so I really do. What you see on social media is only half of it, So to answer your question, yes, we really do enjoy ourselves. We really do have fun. And what you see, and a lot of times what you see on Instagram, that might be our fun moments, but sometimes we just don't put me on a blast. I get annoyed, but I love you too. Okay, well, there you go. There's the other side of it. But honestly, we enjoy each other's company so much. So it'll be days where it was like, all right, well, let's just chill. We don't have to go, to theme parks. We don't have to do, as long as we can chill, watch a show, because as you mentioned before, one of the questions about a lot of stuff that's going on with people and all that, a lot of times it's rare that we get a downtime. So for us to have downtime to be able to watch a movie together, all those things is so precious to me, because at the end of the day, Mike, I want to be known. Yes, I want to be a great pastor, great assistant pastor. That's all great. But at the end of the day, I want to be known as Caleb was the greatest father, period. I want my son to be able to speak well of me, because you have people who are great pastors, great CEOs, great leaders, great bosses, but are terrible parents. And for me, the most important thing is my family. I've said it 100 times. The MMG, whatever the case may be, I will watch it all burn down before I let my family go. Before my family has to say that daddy wasn't there, my husband wasn't there. Leslie, she'll attest to it. I am 100% family first. You know what I'm saying? And everything from there pours from there. My love for my family, and then it pours from there. So yes, it is as fun as I hope as it appears on on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah. So yeah, it took a long time to answer that question, but I think so. I think you muted as well.
Yeah, I'm just messing up. But yeah, absolutely. Listen, I thank you for elaborating on everything because it doesn't always happen like that. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I get one word answers, sometimes, but I appreciate, you been elaborating on everything. Um, is it ever a challenge to maintain who you are? Do
Is it
you
ever?
do you do you know who you are from day to day? Or is that a challenge? Is that a challenge for you to know who you are and where you stand from day to day?
Wow, that's a good question. I would like to say yes. I think what what um what can make that challenging is, especially now again, because with the pandemic as relates to church, you would think that, things have, died down. We wouldn't do as much, but we probably worked 10 times as much
Hmm.
coming up with systems. And so I think a lot of times you can get caught up in like, man, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, and all the stuff that you can kind of get lost in the stuff and
Hmm.
forget about you personally, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, and one day, so to answer your question, I can say as of now for sure, I know I know who I am. I'm good at that, but I think maybe I don't know, a couple months ago, maybe last year, uh, it wasn't so much. I think one day I just woke up, and Leslie can attest to this. One day I woke up and was like, you know what? I'm protecting my peace. I'm I'm just I have to prioritize I even preached a sermon that says I'm on a budget. It's
Mm.
like if I can't afford it as it relates to if this is going to cost me my peace, it's too expensive. I
Wow.
can't afford it. Have you ever been in the store? It's like, oh man, this is that's nice, but you look at the prices like,
Right.
I can't do that. And you go on about your business. Oh, that was nice.
Mhm. Right.
If I can't afford it, if it costs me my peace, it's too expensive. I literally, and I would like to say it was like a process. I literally just woke up one day, and Leslie will tell you, I woke up one day, I was like, I'm protecting my peace. If I can't afford it, if it's gonna cost me my family, it's too expensive. It's gonna
Mhm.
cost me my peace. It's too expensive. If it's not worth the investment as it relates to mentorship, as it relates to leadership, as it relates to even the Bible talks about casting your pearls before swine.
Mhm.
If it's gonna cost me that, if I'm on a budget.
That's
And
good. That's good.
what a budget does, Mike, a budget shows up before your emotions, before your feelings, before you get caught up in the whole euphoria of a thing. A budget shows up before all that and says, this is where we draw the line. And if it gets to this line, we can't do it. And so as soon as your feelings show up and your emotions show up, oh, I love this. This is great. Oh, they need help. They need me. They need me. They need me. It's like, well, if it crosses that line where we've budgeted,
Mhm.
I can't do it. And
Right.
what I learned is, Mike, that I even said
Wow.
in what I learned and what I said even in my message was that human beings are the most resourceful creatures in the world. If you don't do it for them, they will find somebody else who will, or they will figure it out themselves.
Right.
That doesn't mean you don't try to help, at least up until where you've budgeted. But I'm just on a budget. I woke up one day and said I'm on a budget, and so now because of my budget, I'm good. I know who I am, and it's clear, if that makes sense.
Wow. Yo, you just wow. I need the notes to that. I need to
We
see
can make
that.
that happen.
But
Yeah.
wow, like seriously, you just really like sparked. You just really sparked something right there. Like I've never in my life heard of put that way before. That's amazing. That's amazing.
I mean, and most
Being on
people,
a budget.
right? Most people
That's awesome.
understand the, as it relates to money. They understand, all right, I got X amount of dollars, and if I ain't got it, I ain't got it. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I think that's how, a lot of times people are now emotionally bankrupt. They are spiritually bankrupt. They are, in overdraft constantly because they're trying to drawing from a deficiency. You don't have it right now. So right now, take time for you. And because I can't, in order to be a help to someone or in order to pour someone, I have to first get poured into first. I have to first take care of myself, and I can be a better assistance. I can better assist you if I'm in a good place.
Right.
Otherwise, you're no help to anyone.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. Like I could end like right now. That's crazy. That is amazing. Like you just really took me to another place right there. Are you still dealing with because you and Pastor Leslie are, set and you have an understanding of the dynamic of the relationship at the church as well as, being husband and wife.
Can I speak to that as well, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Just a second for that, even for that, and this is for everybody watching, especially if you're in a relationship. What Leslie and I do almost every, I don't know, maybe every 3 months, every quarter, I guess, have that conversation. We revisit that conversation. So 4 times, maybe 5 times a year, 4 to 6 times a year, I guess, we'll revisit that conversation. Hey, how are you? What are you, she'll ask me like, are you still feeling the same way? Are you, and I think that's where things get sticky in a lot of relationships, no matter business, professionally or, intimately, where things get sticky is that, we'll have that conversation one time and never revisit. It's like, well, you said this, but sometimes things do change for people, situations, circumstances change. And when situations and circumstances change, then sometimes your emotions, your feelings, you may change with it. So, but as of now, I'm and nothing has changed for me. I am concrete in it. Every time we talk about it, it's the same thing. But it's always good to always have that conversation constantly. I think to over communicate as it relates to a relationship. I even right now to this day, almost every day, I ask my wife, I ask Leslie, how was your day today? Now here's the thing, Mike. I work with Leslie every day. I work with her. We go to the same place. But I do understand that my experience of that day and her experience of that day could be two completely. I can't assume because I had a great day at work that because we went to the same job, we both had the same day. So I even ask her, and most time I'm even with her at work. And so, but I'm still asking, how are you doing it? Because it's so important to communicate. And, saying that even as relates to the question, as you had mentioned about the dynamics and stuff like that, we communicate and over communicate. And we make sure that we are good. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's a good word. What I was gonna ask is that, you guys have built the rapport and you're constantly, as you say, you're constantly communicating. So you're in agreement on the dynamics of your relationships, whether it be in church or home. Tell me this though. How hard is it to get other people, particularly your patrons to understand the dynamic and not just understand it, but respect it and work within the confines of it. How hard is that? Is that still a thing?
Mike, the Leslie will tell you I'm petty by nature. So but as a good leader, I restrain. But no, here's the thing. This is the truth, Mike. So this is the conversation that I have with Leslie. There's voices and then there's votes. Voices and votes, right? So voices are do you see what Leslie said? I think we should ask the people in the comments if they respect our relationship. So voices, here it is. Voices are the people that we respect, like our parents, our parents are close friends, other people, like people that we value their voice and their opinions. And then, so there's voices and then there's votes. So this is what I had the conversation with Leslie when we first got married. Votes, only 2 people get a vote, and that's me and Leslie. We'll take in consideration the voices, but as it relates to votes, what we're gonna do, my mama don't get a vote, my daddy don't get a vote, her don't get a vote, her dad don't get a vote. However, our moms, our parents, their voices are very important to us, and we take the voices into consideration as it relates to the votes. But as it relates to votes, what we are going to do, it comes down to 2 people, and that's my vote and Leslie vote. And so as it relates to the respect of what other people respect, I honestly, I really don't, so as it relates to our parents, our relationship, our family dynamic, oh, absolutely. They get it there with it 100%. As it relates to anybody outside of that, I'm not really trying to convince anybody of anything. You know what I mean? Because I only come home.
What I mean by that is like I'm actually speaking more from professionally from at the church, like, and let me expound. Like what I mean is like, Sister Banana comes to you and asks you to make a decision that that Pastor Leslie is supposed to make. You know what I'm saying? And vice versa. Like how hard is it trying to get people to understand and respect and work within, now, understand that she is, you know what I'm saying?
I got you. Now, I love that. I love that. So great question. I definitely understand now. I will say this, Mike, at church, man, I think people get it. Leslie, a lot of people seeing Leslie grow up. They, again, like I said, earlier, the secession plan was in place before I got there. So you see, oh my God, Bump Sister Banana, no division. So the secession was in place before I got there. So I think a lot of people kind of understand that Leslie is the go-to. She knows now. However, for those typically outside of C3, if they try to, I'm clear. I make it clear. Oh, no. My wife, she is the senior pastor. I'll, definitely run it by her to see what she thinks, just to let them know that you can't. C3 members are the best, Leslie. You're all right. They are really and I mean that they're good. They got it. Our members get it. But outside of it, I make it clear, like, oh yeah, no, that's my wife. She's the senior pastor, so I'll double check with her, just so they know, like, don't try to think you can slide one through me without me. I'm always gonna mention, oh well, yeah, my wife, she's the senior pastor there, so I'll check in, see what she thinks about it. I'll definitely run the idea by her. I love the idea, even if I like it, I tell them I like it. Oh, I love the idea, but I'm gonna check on my wife to see what she thinks about that. I think that's, we'll see what she says and see if we can make that happen. Even my grandma, Lord, I love my grandma. but it's always she like my grandma's like my grandma's like 80, 84, 85, something like that, maybe 86 years old. And she's like, yeah, when you preach, because she old school, the woman in the pulpit.
Right.
Now that I don't know, she ain't said it, but I know.
Right.
So anytime she like, when did you preach? I said no, I didn't preach, but oh man, Leslie killed it, man. I'm calling Mimi, she did a great job, man. She changed the subject real quick, but yeah, I love messing with it, but I make it known. I make it known for sure. So I gotta make it clear. If you don't get it, you just didn't want to get it. And I'm gonna just tell you that now.
Right.
If it relates to me.
Right. Because I can imagine, like you were saying, I can imagine somebody who's deeply rooted in tradition. I could see them actually, challenging, that dynamic.
Right.
Well, you the man. I'm asking you because you should, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah.
So I get it.
And, for me too, Mike,
what would you say?
I said, I really don't be even, I don't even really be, because people do try to do that, but I'm really not threatened. Like a person really cannot threaten my manhood. Like I really know who I am. I am not competing against my wife. She is not my competitor, my competition. This is my wife. This is my partner, my person I do life with. If she win, I win. If I win, she win. Period. Look, at one point, funny story. At one point Leslie was getting trained. She had a trainer and a trainer that was going to our church, and she was going to the gym, quite often than I was. She had like kind of she was in the flow and the rhythm. And then so one day I was like, you know what? I'll start going to the gym with the same trainer or whatnot. And I would go on a different day, and I was kind of new. So by this time, Leslie was she was in swing. She was going to the gym. People knew her at the gym. And then one lady, we were doing something, like we were doing one exercise. I was struggling. You hear me? Struggling. And the lady was like, yeah, your wife, she be doing she be going back and forth. I'm like, listen, good for her, because I am not the one.
Right.
And what does that supposed to make me feel bad? No, I am. This day one for me. So yeah.
Wow. What would you say, in your experience, what would you say is the most common misconception that people have about you?
That I am an extroverted person. I am naturally an introvert. Naturally, almost any group activity, any event, I really gotta get my mind right before I get there. I can be extroverted when it's necessary. I can act extroverted, and when I'm talking with, I am engaged. I am, when I love to hear people's stories and stuff like that, that one-on-one. I love to hear it because I'll come back and revisit it, a month later, a week later, to let you know, hey man, I still remember that conversation, so, but I am naturally an introverted person. Leslie will tell you, I don't be trying to go nowhere. I'm good here. So, but I think that might be a thing about me, or I guess to build on what the kind of the questions you was asking earlier, that maybe somehow I don't know, less than or weaker than because my wife, is senior pastor, and that might be a misconception. But I don't know. I think for the most part that people think that I'm extroverted. Not the case.
Wow. What will people be surprised to know about you?
What would people be surprised to know about me?
Like, and what I mean by that is like, there's some people who might have a quirky talent that nobody knows about, or maybe you're secret, low key, very competitive, or
I
I
think
saw I was talking to a lady one time, and if you just judged her by her looks, you would never think that she would pick up a hammer, a screwdriver, nothing. This woman was flawless, on here.
yeah.
By the way, I love my wife D. She's beautiful and flawless as well. This is in by no this is in no way, indictment on you. You are awesome every day. With that disclaimer out of the way. This woman was very she's very, very beautiful, and you would never think. But when I asked her this question, she was like, she stays in Lowe's and Home Depot. She builds decks and walls and all these types of things. And this is what she does to decompress. This is what she does to, outside of what she does. So with that being said, what do you think people will be surprised to know about you?
Wow.
That they may not know.
These are really good questions. These are really good questions. I almost wish I had this one in advance. This is a good one. I think, first of all, I don't know, maybe people be surprised to know that I am hilarious. You hear me? I'm hilarious.
Right.
I think so. At least I have fun. But wow, that's a great question. I mean, well, a lot of people now, in the season, if you would ask this question, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe even 7 years ago, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think now people will be surprised to know that I used to be a rapper, and because I haven't explored that in a while. So I think a lot of people will be surprised to know that Leslie said boo. She didn't like my comment about hilarious. It's always, listen, Mike, there's always one hater, but you always press forward for those people who watch it. Put a comment up for me, Mike. Put a comment up for me. Put a comment up for me. The boo, you see the boo right there? Listen. Don't be detoured by the boos. Don't be deterred by the booze. You keep pressing forward. So yeah. I don't know. I think that might be one. I don't know, Leslie, what you think? And I'll give her time to answer that. But yeah, I don't know. That's a great question, Mike. Great question.
Take your time. Take your time. I mean, because the interesting thing about doing this platform, which was also birthed out of the pandemic, is just so interesting to see the diversity that people have. You know what I'm saying? You have the funniest answers. Like I asked you about the common misconception that people have about you.
Mm-hmm.
I asked the woman that one time when I was interviewing on here, and she said, "You know what? The most common misconception that people have about me is that I want their husband. I don't want nobody husband. I'm fine being single. That's the misconception that people have about me." Listen.
Rubber straight.
Right.
She had to.
So it's so interesting to find out, people's insights on things. Is because it's never the same. There's always something new.
Right. So. Leslie said, I like to try new stuff, bake and cook very fat stuff. I do like fat food. Fat food is, but that I don't think ain't nobody surprised to see that, to know that right now. If you've been following me longer than 4 years, your boy like fat food. So yeah. But great question though.
Let me before I get you off of here, let me ask you a couple of questions about the pandemic and the racial injustice and some of the things that we've seen in the last year or two.
Yeah.
And I believe I might ask Pastor Leslie this too. But how has that affected you from a ministry standpoint? Has it changed how you approach ministry? Because now, and I ask that because now, and I tell people this all the time, never before in history, and this is just my opinion, never before in history has it been more important and relevant? And I don't necessarily mean this how I'm saying it, but to pick a side. Like to be whatever you're for. Never before in history have you been more pressed to stand by that. So if you love God and you are Christian, you are committed to being that. Never before has it been more important to embrace that. Just like any other thing. So like with the racial injustice in particular, you being a man of color, has that affected how you approach ministry? Because now you're dealing with people's concerns on a different level, or in a different way, if that makes sense.
No, I think so, man. It like you said, it really, honestly, as relates to America, you begin to, during this pandemic and during like with the last term, you begin to see when you thought we made a step, forward in the right direction, you begin to see like, man, a lot of people think a certain way,
right?
And view me and you in a way in which I thought at least we made a step. I knew we weren't there. I wasn't oblivious, but but I at least thought we made a step. And you realize, man, a lot of people I'm surrounded by a lot of people who don't see me or value me
right
the way I feel, and even when I had a conversation, I had, when I worked in Mississippi, I had a person that I used to work with, she was the assistant manager at the place I worked with. She was a white lady. She had called me around this time when everything was going, there was a lot of stuff going on. And, we was able to have a real conversation. She was like, Caleb, they're doing, this is so much going on. And how can I help? And I'm like, well, I said, it's difficult, for a person like, me and you, and I think her husband was in National Guard. So he had to be, be out. And so now all of a sudden, this is my husband has to go. It's like, listen, we have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. We have to, my son, I don't get the especially now my son going to private school and stuff like that. I have to have a conversation with him. Listen, when you on this road and when you drive, like there's a thing called the talk, right. And every black father knows the talk, or black mother knows the talk. And so we do have to approach this thing a lot differently than a lot of other people would. And even when, it's like when I had the conversation with her, I said, you have people who are offended when they hear Black Lives Matter, and and quickly rebuttal with, well, all lives matter. And it's like, you don't even, when you even hear that, I think I shared this, like, you don't even believe that to the point, because what you're honestly saying, you're not saying all lives matter. What you're saying is all American lives matter.
Right.
Because here you are saying, you stand proud and say, God bless America. Well, if all lives matter, why not God bless the world?
Right.
If all lives matter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we really do, you really can't, as it relates to our ministry, you can't be naive. We are dealing with things and people that are threatened by us now that we're getting educated, now that we are progressing in life. And I don't know, yes, you do approach it differently. But when you're predominantly, when most of your congregation look like you you kind of, all of you kind of know, you know what I'm saying? It's something that if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I often ask people, and they kind of look at me funny, but I ask, like, do you find yourself having to be more Black than you've ever been when it comes to this? And what I mean by that is like you're like, as you said, you have a church that is predominantly people of men and women of color, and not only are you ministering to them spiritually, their spiritual issues or whatever. Now we're talking about social, social issues or whatever. So how important is it for you to inject your personal feelings towards the situation into addressing the ministry? Is it important at all? Because now, before you were just Pastor Caleb, pastor of C3, awesome minister, husband, but now you're Pastor Caleb, the Black pastor of a predominantly Black ministry who's dealing with Black issues. You know what I mean? So it's like, how important is it for you, if it's important at all, to inject, basically saying, let me back up. My pastor, Apostle Charlie Ammon. Shout out to RCCVA, Apostle Charlie and Pastor Vicky, and Prophetess Vicky, and Pastor Ray and Danette.
Nice.
Shout out to RCC. That's my ministry. When it first jumped off, I sent Apostle Charlie like a 3 or 4 paragraph text about how I was feeling, because I felt like I was a bundle of nerves. You know what I mean? Because I have 2 Black sons. You know what I'm saying? I have one that's 25, and I have one that's 3.
Oh wow!
So you can understand that huge. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at it and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I text him and I'm telling him how I felt or whatever, and I'm just telling him, just being probably more transparent than I've ever been, and probably ever been since then. You know what I mean? And he texts me back, very wise words. But the thing that stuck out to me the most in that text was that he told me, he said, I'm angry too. Now, among all the wise words that he had said to me, and all the scriptures and just everything that he said to me, that phrase, I'm angry too, that was enough. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
It was important for me to hear that from him.
Right.
So in your case, do you find that there's a similar type of dynamic when it comes to that? Do you feel a responsibility to go along with, your regular,
I love the fact that your pastor said, I'm angry too. I mean, even the Bible talks about, be angry, but sin not, like, because all of these emotions are from God. And yes, you should be angry. Yes, you should feel, you feel all of it. I mean, if I almost question, like, are you even human if you see this and you can't, your heart doesn't break? You know what I'm saying? It's like your heart is not moved. It's like, how could you, this man was unarmed. Wasn't even posing a threat. It's, how could you not be at least flinch at this? And the few things that we do, first of all, we partner with people who are smarter than us in this area, who here's the thing, Mike, who are on the ground even before there's a national thing that happened, because a lot of times, to be honest with you, some of us we want to be all this ain't right only when you see a news segment, only when the camera's on, or only when you see that one particular, and then after that you back to your regular scheduled program. So we partner with people who are about it. Also, we preach Jesus, because if you look at Jesus, I mean, he was for the downtrodden. He was for the people that the people marginalized. He was for, like, he was with us. You know what I'm saying? The woman at the well, they didn't even talk to her people. Like, why are you talking to her, Jesus? Jesus said, listen, you go get food. I got something. I got work to do with this young lady. And I mean, to be able to heal her. And I mean, this is why I say we preach Jesus, because I know when all this going on, I know, like, man, this is when I know that Jesus is standing even closer. God is stepping even closer, because when you look at Jesus' track record, I'm healing somebody on the Sabbath. I'm breaking the rules. And, you know, and if it means I have to break the rules to get to my people, so be it. If it means I have to break the rules to make sure you're okay, to know that I'm with you, then so be it. And so, and that's I mean, that's when you start to really begin to preach Jesus even all the more, because Jesus was for the marginalized. You know what I'm saying? He was for the alienated. He was for, he rode for them, you know? And so that's when you begin to preach Jesus all the more. And to say, like, this, what you see, this isn't God. What you see, I know what you hear it all, you know, this is, you know, we have to, how it's said, we have to wait till we get all the, it's like, come on now, the facts are all laid out right here.
Right.
Now, some stuff, yes, we it's like, I don't know, but some stuff, it's just plain as day.
Absolutely.
And so, come on. So, but yeah, we preach Jesus all the more, man. And to let you know, this, like, God don't stand for this. This ain't right. So yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've gone over an hour, and I don't want to keep you too tough. I want to respect your time. This will be my last official question.
Okay.
And I want to tell you before I ask you this question, this has been one of the most awesomest, importantest, I'm making up a word, importantest sit downs that I've had.
Oh wow, I am honored. I'm honored for real.
This is really awesome. That whole budget thing, listen, I'm gonna dream about it. And I think I do need those nuts.
I'll pick them up. I got you.
Okay. This is a question that I ask all my guests.
Okay.
When I ask you, I just want you to take a moment, think about it, give me the most honest and transparent answer that you can give me.
Okay.
And here it is. What would have to happen in your life, if it hasn't happened already, for you to consider your life a success? What does success look like to you? What does it translate to you specifically?
I believe I even touched on it earlier, but for me, success is really simple. For me, first, did I do what God has called me to do on this earth, regardless of how great or insignificant that it may look in other people's eyes? Because even the one talent man, all he had to do was just work the one. Even if he put it in the bank, he would have heard "well done."
Right.
So, did I do what I was called to do on this earth from God? And the second thing is, can my family, after I'm gone, speak well of me? They can say my father was a great man. My husband was a great man. My grandfather was a great man. My great-grand and great because of my attentiveness, my presence, mentally, physically and mentally, impartations, and even the wealth that I leave behind, or did I leave something,
Right.
whether money, business, information, knowledge, something. Was I at the bare minimum at least somewhat of a pillar for my family to begin to build upon that, because I don't believe that my son, right now I only have one child, so that my son should start where I started. I
Mm,
believe that he should, at the bare minimum, at least start where I am now, or from where I left off.
mm,
You see what I'm saying? And I think
absolutely.
for me, now, what's extra credit is, hey, did our congregation love? Yes. What was he able to minister and pastor? Yeah. And I believe me, I want that as well. But as it relates to success in my book, did I do what I was called to do on this earth? Can my family speak well of me from generations to come?
Wow. Wow. Okay. So if somebody heard something on this interview that they needed some clarity on, or maybe they just want to find out where your ministry is, or just need advice on something, how can they get in touch with you?
Um, well, as you see, this is my Instagram handle, Caleb L. McClendon. I'm on Facebook as well, Caleb McClendon. As it relates to our ministry, C3 Hampton, you can type that in on Facebook, C3 Hampton. You can check out the ministry. I'm telling you, my wife is we have great leadership. Dr. Leslie, my wife, is a phenomenal pastor, phenomenal. And if you want to get fed, with I'm telling you, not a whole bunch of shouting and stuff like that, there's nothing wrong at all with that. However, that's not our church in general. So
Mhm.
if you want to get fed and how you can move from day to day, a word that that you can apply that's practical, C3 Hampton, Calvary Community Church. We are a multi-generational church. Our oversight pastor, Bishop L.W. Francisco III, Dr. Natalie, they are still there. They passed it down to their daughter, Dr. Leslie, but they are still there as well. So you still have wisdom from them as well. So yeah, love to connect with you. Holla at your boy.
Okay. Well, with that being said, I want to again thank you for coming on the platform. It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad that you finally were able to we were finally able to put it together.
Yeah,
Um, and I definitely appreciate it, because again, like I said, this is one of those. This is one of them, as they would say, one of them. It's one of them. And I appreciate it, and I appreciate your family for lending. You know what I'm trying to say.
I know. I appreciate it. I hear my son yelling in the background. He just having a ball. I don't know if you can hear him on
Yeah,
the mic. He having a ball. So you good.
absolutely. Yeah, I want to thank you again. I appreciate all the wisdom and knowledge that you've imparted to me, as well as everybody who has saw fit to be on the watch the platform. If you guys miss it, you can watch it on Facebook. You can also watch it on YouTube. It's also airing on YouTube simultaneously. Just type in "Let's Take a Walk" featuring Caleb McClendon, and you can watch this whole interview from beginning to end. And please like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to get that up.
Get
So
it up.
please,
Man,
go on and hit that notification bell and that whole thing, and we really will appreciate it. Pastor Caleb, I really appreciate it again, and thank you. I look forward to having you and Dr. Leslie on at the same time next time, so we can
make it happen.
compare notes.
Let's make it happen. Right.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, listen,
Absolutely.
I appreciate you for having me. Like
Yes,
Mike
sir.
said, y'all like and subscribe. it is worth it. Anytime that he's coming on, it's going to be a wealth of knowledge. So do yourself a favor, like, subscribe, and then share.
Yes, sir. Well, you have an awesome night and a great weekend. And I absolutely wish blessings on C3, on McClendon Media Group, and everything else that you have your hands in. I pray blessings over everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you, brother. All right. Peace.
All right. You have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right. There you have it. Another great interview with another awesome guest, man. Listen, he blew my mind with that one. And I thank everybody that came on and that commented. Shout out to Dr. Leslie, Francisco McClendon. I really appreciate you as well. You guys are a power couple, definitely. I appreciate you. Everybody that came on, JT Taylor, Miss Sharon Gatling, Miss Mustafa. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the first name, but I appreciate you guys. Thank you all, and everybody else that came on, that saw fit. But I just want to thank you and appreciate you. Like I said, it's another great interview. I'm gonna watch this again. So I implore you guys to share with others and have them like and share that. And listen, we want to blow this up, because the knowledge that was imparted on tonight. Wow. But before I go, I just want to encourage everyone. This is your time to walk in your vision, your God-given vision, and to move as God is directing you to move. You may not feel like you have the resource or the time, but as Pastor Caleb said, God gives us the ability to create a spiritual budget, and anything that costs you peace, anything that costs you time but doesn't profit you anything, you have the ability to cut it off. You have the ability to wean it out of your budget, streamline it to the point where it's only the things that are beneficial to you, that edify you, that make you better, that you can use to move forward. So with that being said, I'm gonna let you guys go. But again, I thank you for coming on, and I thank you for your faithfulness. I'll see you guys next week. Take care, okay? Let's take a walk.